Okay, so the next thing that your assignment talks about is media at rules for different media types. But there's also, we also use them to call fonts. And we use them to import, we can use them to import files in CSS. So I thought I would just go through like all the at rules and what they mean and what they are. So let's close our Flamingo. So there's this at import right here. And basically, this is just another way to do that link rel thing that we do in HTML in the brackets when we import our CSS file, which is like a separate file, and we link it to the HTML that way. So this is how we're doing it inside of CSS. So if you were so inclined, you could have a separate, just like actually a separate file for your mobile display versus your desktop display versus your something else display, tablet display, and you could import it with this little at and then import. And that would be your CSS style. And I don't know if, yes, this one. So this one has, no, this one uses at font face for import. Oh, hang on, where's my green? Yes, this one. Okay, this is at media. So slightly different but similar concept. This imports media rules. So we always have screen because we're always dealing with the screen. And then we have conditions for our screen. So we could say at media screen and a certain size. And then inside of that, we have our CSS. So in this case, rather than bringing in an entire file, so at import just brings in an entire file. It's the only at rule that works that way. The rest of them, you still have to write out all the stuff. Like here, we say it's screen and has a minimum width of something. Then we're going to open up brackets and like nest all the CSS information inside of that. So this at rule just is a way of demarcating your code for other stuff, but it's not some external thing that like we don't see what it's doing. We still have to write out everything that it's doing. So this example is very nice because we have our at media and screen, and we don't care what size. We don't have any additional specifiers to the screen. We just say it's screen, and if it's screen, the text is green. And then we have at media print. In that case, the text will be black, and you're like, well, how do I even, like, how do I see that? So luckily, I can display this to you by saying, if I say Command P, and even if I don't go to a printer, and this is super useful if you're looking at websites and you want to save the text on the website, or if you have like something sent to you that's not in text format, but you want to save it like as a text document so that you can see it again later, because the web archive, for example, or like saving a link, it could change later on. So let's say you want to like freeze it the way it is and save it for yourself. You can say save as PDF instead of print. So PDF, one of the reasons that it was invented was so that we could collate and like compile all of the elements of a print document and then send it over like the intraweb to a printer from a computer way back when that was a thing. So so we could still use this, save as PDF thing, and then I'll just save it in my downloads. I did this yesterday just to make sure it works, but here it is. And if I open it, you can see that the text is black. So when the CSS was like, all right, I'm about to like save myself in a document, it like imported this other rule. And so now I have black text on my document and green text on my browser. So this is in preview, and this is in on the web. So this is kind of like a rare use case scenario, but I think it's really cool. You could maybe make an interesting art piece with this, where you have an empty web page that like prints an entire book for you. You know, that's like only visible if you set it to print or something like that, or vice versa. But it's a really good example, I think, of like what would we ever use besides the screen? Right? Everything is so screen based. It kind of just lives on the screen forever. So this is for importing CSS for maybe different media use cases scenario, not just different screen cases or specific CSS visual cases. Okay, and then our other @ rule is also kind of an import rule, right? And that's the font family import rule. So then you're familiar with this, where we use this @font face to import. We call the family. So here we say, the reason that we say font family, whatever, whatever here is because we're assigning this name to this source. And then we're using it here. So even if we import a font, we still have to call it, right? If I say font family cursive, if I replace it with that, it should just give me like, yeah, it gives me another font. So we still have to say that we want to use it there. But when we use this @font face part, that's when we're importing the font into our website. So kind of like importing an external style sheet. Here you're importing an external file, like this is a file that exists somewhere else. It's sitting somewhere in Google's servers, and you're importing it so that you can use it. So those are the @ rules. There's one more that this one, I actually never used, so I didn't add it here, but we could take a look. It looks like, so it's a character set inside a style attribute. So so it's a way to import our character set like we do in the meta tag. So it's a replacement for that, which is maybe why I've never used it, but also like importing a set of information. So this kind of reminds me, and you can take a note of it for later. This reminds me of importing libraries when we program, and we're going to import libraries when we get to JavaScript next week.